If there is no control group, it's not science. So if they don't have some type of control or placebo to go along with it, and just comparing the horses how they were on day zero, that doesn't work, because you can do horses on day zero, give something for a month, and expect to see differences, because rarely do things stay the same, whether it's hair coat or whether lameness or body condition score. I expect those things to change over a month or 2 months or 6 months.
Hello, and welcome to another special equine edition of the Pet Food Science Podcast, where we explore the science and strategies behind how we feed our horses. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Rankovich, and I am so excited to be welcoming back Dr. Brian Nielsen for what I'm sure will be another really great and fun conversation. Last time he was on, we talked about hydration, salts, and electrolytes. And this time we'll dive into another topic that I think every horse owner and professional has an opinion on. And that's supplements, and really where you should be spending your money and what we should be telling people as nutritionists and what we should be recommending. So for those who did not catch his last episode, I will reintroduce him, or in case you've forgotten. But Dr. Nielsen is a professor of equine exercise physiology in the Department of Animal Science at Michigan State. And there he holds both teaching and research appointments. He earned his bachelor's in animal science from the University of Wisconsin River Falls, and then went on to do his master's and PhD at Texas A&M before joining the MSU faculty in 1996. Over the course of his career, he's authored more than 90 peer-reviewed papers, delivered more than 200 invited talks worldwide, and served as the president of the Equine Science Society, where he was recognized as a fellow in 2019. He's also a diplomat of the American College of Animal Nutritionists, a member of the National Academy of Animal Sciences Committee on Nutrient Requirements of Horses, and currently chairs the Michigan Horse Racing Advisory Commission. He's also maintained more than 3 decades of hands-on experience in the racing industry with both quarter horses and thoroughbreds. Dr. Nielsen, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast again.
And I'm excited to be back here. Absolutely enjoyed our last conversation, and we'll certainly have a lot of fun, because as you indicated, this is of interest to a lot of horse owners.
Yes, it's a very big topic.
Yes.
Before we get started, do you want to tell the audience what you've been up to since the last time we had you here, both either in your personal life or research, teaching at Michigan State?
Well, we have a big project going on right now that I'm very excited about. You'll have to stay tuned on that one, looking at the role of corticosteroid injections and whether they actually help or hurt healing of joint lesions. Our suspicion is that it actually impairs the healing of these lesions. But in a few weeks, we're going to be finishing up this project, and we'll probably be able to tell you a little bit more.
Oh, perfect.
And that kind of actually falls right in line with some of these supplements, because people have joint problems and they're trying to cure them. So beyond that, lots of travel. I happen to visit Aggie Land, Texas A&M, gig 'em, whoop, hullabaloo, connect. They say weird things like that down there. And it's lots of travel coming up, heading to Edinburgh, Scotland. I've been teaching through a graduate program there since 2009. This is the last semester that I will have taught in there. I'm going to attend the commencement there. I figured that'd be something very fun to wrap that all up. So that plus a whole lot more travel, and we're just having a ball.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. That's great. I feel like there's always something exciting happening in your world, and in the world of horses, right? You combine those two and you can't ever be bored.
Absolutely. It's been a fun ride, no pun intended. So, yeah.
Kemin Nutrisurance is compelled to provide safe and delicious ingredients to improve our pets' food so they can have the best quality of life. Every day, they deliver specialized expertise, innovative products, and unrivaled support through the pet food and rendering value chain. From oxidation control and food safety to palatability and nutrition, all the way through a suite of tailored services that support you from start to finish, we ensure you're getting the most from Kemin ingredients. Kemin is compelled by curiosity to ensure pets around the world are living happy and healthy lives.
Well, last time you were here, I feel like you really helped simplify the topic of electrolytes, which I think for a lot of people feels overcomplicated. And you sort of broke down, well, what does the horse actually need versus what's being marketed to horse owners? And so I think that builds really nicely on, a topic that causes, I think, people a lot of confusion, and that supplements. Just because most people do want to do right by their horse, but it's so tough to know, well, what's actually beneficial? Where are you wasting your money? What's maybe worth your money? And so to start us off, from your perspective, what do you think is driving the tendency of owners to want to feed supplements and feed more than one supplement at a time? Do you think it's something to do with psychology? Is it marketing? Is it a combination of those?
Yes, yes, and yes. So I'll go back. There was a supplement that a trainer I used to ride for many years ago used to give his horses. I won't talk about what it was. Maybe we will later. And I said, so why do you do it? Because there's no research that shows it has any effect. And he's like, well, if the other trainers are giving it and it has some advantage, I want that advantage. So, you mentioned the psychology. That's it. You don't want to be left out if somebody else has the advantage. Now, again, that was in the racehorse industry, and I can understand wanting that advantage, even if it's just a fraction of a second. For a lot of people, the thing is they love their horse. I mean, that's why most people are in the horse industry. And they want what's best for their horse. And that's kind of why a lot of people give it. They want to do what's best. And I always feel bad for folks as trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And that's a whole nother conversation, which we will have. But they're doing it usually out of their desire to do what's best. And unfortunately, sometimes that means a lot of wasted money. But you're right. It is a combination of different reasons. And most of them usually are good reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that desire, I think we as nutritionists and scientists, especially when we're trying to give people advice, and I think it's so quick to judge sometimes, or we can be so quick when we have that knowledge. That whole concept of no one's trying to hurt their horse. No one's trying to waste their money. And truly at its core, it is about people who think that they are doing a service to their horses or giving them some kind of health benefit and trying to support them in that way. I always wonder too, and I don't know whether this has been your perspective, I find when people board their horses, I feel like maybe they have less control, and they do, right? When you're boarding your horse, maybe you don't have a say in what its turnout it's like, or you can't access all these different farms with beautiful turnout and pasture, and maybe you don't have access to being able to manage what it's being fed. And sometimes I think people are maybe trying to sort of balance out maybe what their horse isn't getting. Maybe they're not getting turnout, they're worried about ulcers, by then giving them a supplement that's maybe going to support digestive health. And I don't know whether that's been your perspective too, but I always wonder whether it is worse for people that do board their horses than it is for people that have them on property.
So you may have seen a smile come up when you started to ask that. About 45 minutes ago in my class, I was giving an example that will draw a parallel. And we were talking about massage for horses. And we aren't going to talk about whether or not that works, because that's not the point today. But I mentioned a former grad student of mine who was boarding at a facility, and she was kind of shamed by the other people there because she wasn't getting a massage for her horse. Mm-hmm. Didn't she love her horse? Because everybody else is getting the massage for their horse. And so not only is it just you've lost some of the control, so you want to make certain you're covering all the bases regarding feeding, but sometimes there's this peer pressure because she was definitely made to feel like she was not as good of an owner because she wasn't doing, the massage for her horse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And definitely nutrition wise, even myself. So love racing my own horses, and I loved it when I could do absolutely everything on my own other than on race day. Can't have a trainer's license and a jock's license, and I like to eat, so losing that much weight to be a jock,
you gotta give something up.
Exactly. Well, I sent my horse off and sent him to a couple trainers to race out of state, and I hated that. I sent them to good people so I didn't have to worry about the horse's care, but I lost control of what I could do. And I looked at the useless stuff that was being administered this horse. And I'm like, oh, this is painful because these are costs that I should not be incurring right now. So those are all various reasons why some people will even give more because you don't have control. So you want to make certain all bases are covered. But I will, and I'm going to explain how complicated it is for somebody to find out whether something is justifiable in terms of supplements. But I always say if supplements were needed, my horses would be dead. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of gives you a little bit. Now, when my horses went off to other places and I no longer had control, they were being provided some of these supplements that have no scientific proof that they do anything. And that was irritating for me as a scientist. So sometimes you're kind of stuck.
I completely understand. And sometimes I wonder with like the peer pressure aspect, whether it's now made worse through social media and influencers as well. But that's a whole other can of worms.
Oh, I was clearing off a few of the things on my screen. There were some things regarding what people have posted on Facebook that I was doing some screenshots, and it's the peer pressure. And if somebody you respect says that, oh, this worked for my horse, anecdotal evidence is one of the most scary things because, well, you begin to give your horse something and the horse improves. So that must mean whatever it was that you gave him must have done it. And I love the example. I had a student many years ago who was giving a vitamin mineral supplement that she bought from her vet, loved it, took the horse off. After a period of time, the horse's hair coat started going worse. And then she put the horse back on it, hair coat started improving. And I said, so when did you start putting this horse back on? And she's like, well, around finals time last spring semester. All righty, let's talk about confounding effects. Springtime, green pasture, sunshine. I wonder why the hair coat was improving. Might have had nothing to do with the supplement, and of course, she pulled it off when they were out of the show season. And so, yes, in the middle of winter, I would expect the hair coat to look worse.
Right.
So, when you see people making these comments on social media and it's somebody who they respect, they believe has knowledge, well, it's very easy to get tricked into believing I should be doing this for my horse. And that's not a good, solid reason.
No, and I think some companies are now even backing their claims off of these reviews that they're getting from people. Over the show season, I had someone saying to me like, oh, I feed this calming supplement. It's so great. It's so great. And they were importing it from Europe and it was like $130 Canadian for like a small bottle of it. And I'm looking at the ingredients and I'm like, it's basically tea. So I messaged the company and I said, hey, you have all these claims on and that kind of leads us into the next question, which I'll get into. But I emailed them saying, you have all these claims related to your product. Can you tell me what these claims are based off of? Have you done trials? Do you have data? And they said to me, and I wish I was paraphrasing, our products are not based on science, but we have a lot of customers who have said that they work. And I'm like, they're not based on science. What are they? They're based on like vibes. Like what are we basing them on? And I was like, that's just, oh my God. It just really upset me. I think as a scientist, as a horse person, as a friend to this person who was spending like over $100 every month on this product. And I don't know what other products she was buying, but it's just, I don't know. It's just so disheartening.
So along that line, when I sent my racehorse off, one of the supplements that was being sold to the trainer by this veterinarian, and I will not name it by name, was a supplement that theoretically should help with the joints. And again, theoretical because I don't even believe the science is that solid. However, the main ingredient is such that it would not do it. Again, I'm trying to be as cryptic as I
was trying to be cryptic with mine too. So
Anyway, there is no logical reason that if whatever should help with joints, that what is being ministered would help because, the science doesn't work that way because horses are mammals and mammals can't do what they're trying to claim. Anyway, I had a Zoom meeting with two of the individuals that were high up. I let them talk for about 20 minutes as to their great product. And then I said, do you have any research that actually shows this works? And they had to admit no. But they said, we do have some research that it shows, or an abstract that'll be coming out soon that shows that it'll increase fertility. And I said, if you can make my gelding more fertile, then you've done something. They refunded my money.
Well, that's good of them. It's nice.
Sadly, I had a former student who contacted me last week regarding a supplement that she had been administering it to her horse and wasn't seeing any results, and she wanted my opinion on it before she ordered some more. I saw it, same company, different product, but a lot of the same ingredients that should have no effect. And she's already blown like $350 on it. And I'm like, okay,
students too.
So the fact you have these companies that aren't doing research, but I'll have people that will make excuses for them. They say research is expensive. I 100% agree. It is expensive. To have a horse on project here at MSU, if I had it out here at the horse farm, I'm charged between $26 and $27 per day per horse. And that's not actually to do research, it's just to have access to the horses. It's expensive to do. Sadly, we often have to do our research off-site because it's just too expensive to do it here through the university. But companies often want you to go ahead and believe them, even though they won't put their money where their mouth is. So they want the customers to put their hard-earned money up to buy their product, that there is no proof it does anything because it's too expensive to do research. But you want people to... I have issues with it. And I will say there are some good companies out there.
Yep, I agree 100%.
A number of years ago, I was contacted by a company wanting me to do research on their product to see if it worked. And I put them off for about a year and a half because I did not believe in this product. I thought, okay, this is some fake stuff. Coincidentally, it was the same stuff that trainer that he said, well, I don't know if it works, but if other trainers are using it.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's probably a full circle moment for you.
Yeah, well, and I decided after about a year and a half of trying to I don't want to do this. I was like, they're doing what I preach these companies should do. Put your money where your mouth is. We did the research, and interestingly, my research design failed, my bad. So we couldn't look in whether it improved performance or not because we used a bunch of our schoolies and we did an exercise test and none of them could anywhere come close to completing it at the end, but we got them fit. And at the end, every single horse, both the placebos and the treatment ones, could complete the project without issue. Again, my bad. But there were some other things that we saw. Okay, I'll tell you what it was. It was bee pollen of all things.
Okay.
What we saw was that we did a digestibility trial in the middle of the study where we allowed horse to eat as much hay as they want, but we gave them like 1 pound or kilogram of oats along with either the bee pollen or a fake placebo. And we looked at fiber digestibility and phosphorus digestibility, things that people have claimed. My research assistant, she gave me the results and it was confusing. She said the horses on the bee pollen, they digested more fiber, but they had lower fiber digestibility. And I'm like, okay, so you're saying their ability to digest fiber was decreased, but they digested more of it.
Yeah.
No sense. I said, let me see the data. Turns out on every single day of the digestibility trial in the middle of the study, the horses being fed bee pollen ate more hay because they were given ad libitum access to it on every single day than any of the control horses on any of the days. And I was like, well, son of a gun, I did not expect to see that. Now, the rest of the story. Bee pollen contains B vitamins, and when you have really hardworking horses, anecdotally, I said don't believe anecdotal, anecdotally, like race horses, hardworking race horses, often they lose their appetite. And, you come in after a race and you ask the trainer, oh, how are they eating? Not good or great. You want the thumbs up, not the thumbs down. But sometimes horses normally synthesize plenty of B vitamins on their own, but in really hardworking horses, especially ones that are eating a lot of grain, you might not actually be producing enough. I won't bore you with all the biochemistry involved. And theoretically, administering B vitamins works. And if you're giving bee pollen, effectively, that could be why they had this increase in appetite. We actually have some research that was published on that. Now, realistically, instead of feeding bee pollen, a shot of B vitamins can stimulate their appetite if they've lost it anyway. But that was a case of where they really did this work. They wanted to do it. They put their money where their mouth is. And by the way, this company, the same one, we looked at a cellulase to also help increase fiber digestion. It didn't do anything. And I love the company. They're like, oh, well, at least we know. Now we don't have to waste more time on it.
Absolutely.
Sadly, that's not the majority of companies. There are so many more that don't really care if it makes a difference, as long as they're making the money. And maybe they would love it if it actually worked, but they have no science to back it up. And I also don't know how the average horse owner can figure this out. Because I look at the marketing and I so believe it looks convincing. But I tell my students they're living at the best time of their lives. And they're, of course, thinking, yes, because we don't have a full-time job. We get to go out with friends, etc. No, they have access to the scientific literature. Okay, that's a real science nerd who says that makes it the best.
No, you're
time.
Absolutely right. We take that for granted when we're at the university. What a blessing it is to have all that knowledge at our fingertips.
It is. And so if they want, they can look up and look for studies that show something works. Your average person, if you want one of those articles, normally you have to spend like $35 to $50 to read a really boring research paper, which often may not be the whole truth, nothing but the truth and all that stuff. Because oftentimes in science, if you are doing research for a company, there can be a tendency to try and emphasize the good, because if you do that, well, then they'll keep funding you. If you publish stuff that says this stuff doesn't work, good luck getting more funding from them. So our science is really biased towards only publishing stuff that has a positive effect. That's unfortunate. And unless you're able to look at the whole body of science that's out there on a given topic and synthesize, okay, are the people who are saying it's positive, are they writing this in a way where it's obvious they have an agenda, or do they really look like they were trying to find the truth? And so many times, especially in the horse research world, it's people with agendas for whatever reason. So even if you have access to the scientific literature, you need to be a grumpy old gray-haired guy like me who's like, get off my yard, don't publish bad research, to be able to figure out what's good and bad. So it's tough for the average horse owner.
It is really tough. And I think kind of going down that same line. So from a scientific perspective, what kind of evidence are you looking for when you're looking at these trials that have been done, or some of the science that these companies have done? Or what are you telling your students? Are you looking at study design, consistency, effect size?
Yep. So a number of things. First of all, if there is no control group, it's not science. So if they don't have some type of control or placebo to go along with it, and just comparing the horses how they were on day zero, that doesn't work, because you can do horses on day zero, give something for a month, and expect to see differences, because rarely do things stay the same, whether it's hair coat or whether lameness or body condition score. I expect those things to change over a month or 2 months or 6 months. And so if you don't have a control group that you are administering, preferably a placebo, at the same time that you're making all these measurements, you can pretty much ignore that research. It should have never been published. If I was the reviewer, reject. So that's part of it. And then I want to look for the writer's bias. I have seen many times where you'll have an author say something about, they weren't statistically different, but numerically X was higher than, Y. Okay. If they are not statistically different, they are not different. And when you're trying to tell me that something is higher or lower, even though it's not statistically different, what you are trying to do is mislead me into believing there is a difference. I got to tell you, and I'm going to be somewhat cryptic, we just did a study looking at a joint supplement, very commonly commonly used one. And we had a farm where we had 70 to 80 horses we could select from all age geldings. And so we selected 40 that we thought were the best candidates. That would be our typical horse that you might want to give a joint supplement to.
And that is, I mean, the fact that you have access to so many horses too is pretty uncommon. Like we really struggle at Guelph when we've done trials to get enough horses, like period. And then trying to find consistency within that population too, and how they're managed, how they're fed it is really difficult to do horse research. I think that's something people underestimate compared to other species. Like you can get 200 cows easy, but just getting 20 horses is like pulling teeth.
I want to do poultry research, and I have done some of it. I mean, you can get 1,000 birds.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You blink and there's 1,000 chickens.
Yeah. So, no, we were blessed. And I got to give a shout out to my PhD student, Renee Harbowie, because this was a farm that she worked on for 7 years as a counselor. They love her. I love her. And now I love the farm because they didn't charge us a thing for doing the research there. They thought it was neat because they have young female campers who get to see how research is done.
Yeah,
and then they got to find out. Yeah, it was. So anyway, we did this study, and we went ahead and obviously we had our placebo, and we also had the supplement. But then to actually create this illusion that there was 4 different treatments within our placebo group, we divided those into 2. Within our joint supplement group, we divided those into 2. So everybody working at the farm thought there was 4 different treats we were given.
The supplement was being fed at the same dose? Like it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same dose, but we added like a little coloring and a little odor to the different ones. So they all smelled and
They were
looked
blind. Yeah. Nice.
But 2 of them were the exact same except for a little different odor or different color. And we were able to select 40 of the horses that we thought best for this. There were time differences, different times. So from day 0 to day 21, horses might have been more lame, less lame. I don't recall the specifics. We'll get back to all that. We looked at stride lengths. We did, the flexion exams. We did lameness locator. And over time, yes, there were highs and lows. Things changed. There was one point on all the things we measured, and we measured a lot of things. We saw one time where there was a treatment difference where the placebo had the better response.
Okay.
Okay.
And so can I ask what the placebo was, or?
Yes, it was flour, like wheat flour, like you
Okay, yeah.
with a little bit of just a little bit of coloring added to it. And my group, my research assistant, Dr. Kara Robinson, and my grad student, they came up with like some essential oils or something just to add a little smell and a little color.
Right, that's a really good idea.
And we've used it on a lot, and I'll come back to that in a bit if I remember. Good luck on that one. Well, I'll zoom ahead. I've had trainers who have said, "Oh, my horse is performing so much better. What is it that you're giving?" I was like, "Well, it's." At the time, the study was still going on, so it did not share. This is different studies, but it's like, it's flour. After the study was over and unblinded them, they're like, "Well, do you think that made a difference?" No. But that's why you always need to have a placebo there, is because your perception. So back to this study, what was interesting is, again, there was only one of these things where there was a treatment differences. All others, there was no difference between the joint supplement and the placebo. But what I loved most, and I didn't care if this stuff worked or if it didn't work. I wanted to know the truth. That's all I care about. If this works, great. We can recommend it to people. Finally, we have something that can help. If it doesn't work, people, save your millions and millions and millions of dollars that horse people are spending on this stuff. And what was interesting is in virtually everything, if you looked at the lines without the standard error bars and with not paying attention to whether things were significant or not, on almost everything, the line for the placebo looks better than the supplement, which is wonderful, because if it had been switched, people would say, well, maybe if you had more horses or whatever, because numerically it's looking like the treatment was better. In this case, numerically, it looks like the placebo was better. We don't talk numerical because they aren't different. But how wonderful that it was that way, where there was no evidence whatsoever that it made a lick of difference. So I'm not telling people to not give it, because it's their choice and they'll probably ignore the research anyway. What we're saying is, in our study, tightly controlled, we had veterinarians evaluating the horses. They were all blinded to it. Everybody is blinded. There was not an ounce of evidence that it made a difference. And that was with 40 horses on there. But you're saying you give it to your horse and you see an improvement. Well, folks, what you're probably seeing is that day difference, because we do see that where it goes up and down. But between treatments, it didn't.
And there is something really to be said, I think, about the effect of placebo. And I think we see that very frequently, or at least I feel like I do with calming supplements. Whereas from what I've seen, the science behind calming supplements is minimal at best. I don't even know if there's really any that are strongly supported, but people feel like it's working. And so I've had people come to me a day after they've started a supplement. They're like, oh my gosh, it made a difference. I can ride her again. And honestly, sometimes like I just go, great. You know, if you can enjoy your horse and you feel like you can ride your horse now, I don't think that supplement is doing anything, but if it's doing something for you, then great. And I struggle sometimes with that conversation a bit, where I'm like, is it my due diligence as a scientist, as a nutritionist, to be telling you it doesn't work? Or should I just let you assume it works, not burst your bubble, let you enjoy your horse, and just assume that there's no harm being done? What's your perspective on that?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question. And I don't have a definite answer on that. Because one, I always like to say, here's what the science shows. And most of the calming stuff, with rare exceptions, there's no science to support it. But that placebo effect in a person, I love starting horses under saddle. I'm really good at it. My youngest daughter, one of the last horses I had in to start, she made the comment to the person, he's never had a tough horse to break.
Oh, that's good to know. See, I'm breeding my horse, so I will be sending it to you.
There you go.
I cannot find anyone here that wants to break young horses anymore.
I have done hundreds and I love it. And the vast majority of horses, in 30 minutes, you bring them in, I take them around pen, I can be walking, trotting, loping both directions, no problem. And the horse looks baroque. Part of it, I've done it so long. This is what I do. I love breaking babies. And I shouldn't use the word breaking, because these horses, again, my daughter believes there's nobody tough because they don't look like they're tough.
Yeah, of course.
And that's good. But part of it is, this is what I do. I'm not nervous. I'm not scared. It's just another day at the office.
It's another day for you. Yeah, another Tuesday.
When I was in grad school, I charged $5 a ride, no matter what it was. If it was putting the first ride on a horse, it was, okay, here's why I'm telling you this. I remember the year was 1989. At a thoroughbred race facility, there was a gal who wanted to learn how to become an exercise rider. Maybe it was 90. She had very little background. The trainer let her ride a pony horse a time or two. And then we had a pretty gentle racehorse that he said, okay, if you want to tack this one up and take him to the track, you know, we'll see how it goes and bring him back. She came back and the boss goes, how'd that horse go for you? And she goes, not bad. He wasn't very forward, but other than that, he did good. He's like, do you realize that horse has never been saddled before? If she had known that, there is no way that ride would have gone good. It would have been horrible. She would have been so scared, but she thought she grabbed the wrong horse.
What a fun experience for her. Fun story to share later.
Well, along that same lines, when I was in grad school, I had a lot of horses. I started under saddle. I'm trying to avoid using the word breaking, but everybody knows what I'm talking about when I use that. And this one year, I did one group the first week and then another group the second week. On that second week, on the Monday, I rode all those horses in the round pen. And then on the afternoon, taking the horses out on the track that I had started the week before. And I was allowing my undergrads to ride them also, which tells you how good they are. They've had like 5 rides on them and and we're out there on the track and we're galloping along in company. One gal's horse, again, just not forward enough and no big deal. And we get to the starting gates and we're all riding through the starting gates and hers isn't going through there. So I get off my horse, hand it to somebody, and I'm leading her horse through. And I look at the brand on him. I'm like, what horse were you supposed to get? The horse that she was riding that did fine on the track, not overly forward, didn't go through the starting gates. Well, he had had a half hour of training on him that morning. I rode him, I put a saddle on him and rode him for the first time that morning. And here she grabbed the wrong one and he did fine. If she had known that, it would not have gone well. So your point, the placebo effect regarding calming agents, that's huge. And I've often believed that be the case. If you can get your riders calm, that helps calm the horse. And if they're thinking they're giving them something magic, it might not actually do anything for the horse, but if it does it for the rider, it does it for the horse. And sometimes you don't want to burst their bubble on that.
Exactly, right?
Because it's working.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I can talk to my students in class about the science, and I could say, yeah, most of that stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or at least there's no proof of efficacy. So,
yeah, and I try, but sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, this 80-year-old woman it's great. I'm so glad you found a supplement that works for your horse. And that's all that needs to be said sometimes.
I have learned that over my years and years of giving speeches all over the world on stuff. Sometimes people just want to hear that you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I may as well not even bother, because it doesn't matter what I tell you anyway, what you're feeding your horse or whatever, because you're still going to keep doing it, and you just need the reassurance that you're not going to kill your horse.
Mm-hmm.
You're fine. You're not going to kill him.
And so for the owners that are looking, though, to understand how to make evidence-based decisions on their supplement purchases, what's your rule of thumb, or how do you recommend they decide what's worth their money? How do they find these trials and this science if, they don't have access to publications like you and I do?
And here's where I'm going to be a failure and let you down. This is what I've struggled with. I don't have a good recommendation, because I see how companies manipulate things. And they're trying to tell you that the science is there. Then I say, in fact, this company that this former student bought $350 worth of stuff, I did send them a message asking if they would refund her. I haven't heard back from them yet. I said, unless you can provide, why not? And I'm going to have fun with it if they don't. If they do, great, I'll behave and not whatever. But I'm tired of people getting scammed. But I'm like, if you can provide the peer-reviewed published research, great. Then we can take a look at it. We can look at whether there's good research design. Again, you need to have a control group, and it has to be a good control group. And horses in both groups have to be treated the same way. You can't have one group on one farm and then the treated group on a different farm. No, it has to be good, solid science. And sometimes you don't have to be a scientist to understand what makes good science. Sometimes just thinking logically, like, are they doing this fairly? Is this a real fair test? Can help guide you. If they can't provide you that stuff, then I think you might be wise on keeping your money in your wallet.
And then in regard to the supplements that do work, do you think that owners are setting...
Wait, are there some that do? I'm sorry, that was bad.
Well, it sounds like bee pollen, maybe.
Yeah, anyway, keep going. Yeah, that was one I was actually amazed. I really did not.
I hadn't heard that. I'm going to have to do some diving into the literature. I didn't realize that bee pollen was high in B vitamins.
Yeah, and for anybody who's wondering, bee pollen, they actually collect the pollen that bees are collecting. It knocks it off their little feet when they're going into their beehive. It takes a lot of bees to get enough pollen to feed a horse. So anyway, that's why it's expensive. I do think there's other ways to get B vitamins to horses if they need. But yeah. Anyway, okay, sorry. I got sidetracked.
No, it's okay. Well, I was going to ask you for the ones that do have some evidence that they work. Do you think that, or just in supplements in general, I guess, whether they're working or not working for the reasons owners are buying them, do you think the expectations are too high? Do you think owners are expecting almost drug-like results from some of these supplements? And is that how they're being marketed? Are they being led astray? Or
So great question. And in fact, I would argue this company, we did the research on their product and they knew we were doing it. They found out through the grapevine. I think they were a little nervous.
Oh, so they didn't fund the research. You just did the research. Oh, they got research for free.
20 years ago, I asked them to just provide the supplement so we could test it. Similar research design, and they refused. That told me a lot. And I've questioned it ever since they were not willing to do a good study that actually looked at their product. Anything that's been published where it's been fed, like there's one that's commonly used or cited, there's no control group. So it's useless, but they use it a lot in their advertising. Anyway, I think they should be very thankful we didn't find that it had benefits. Because if we actually shows this helps treat osteoarthritis, then effectively you have a drug. And then it's a whole nother level of regulation. So they should be thankful that we show that it didn't do anything, right?
No, that's a really good point regarding regulation of supplements versus drugs and sort of the expectation or the results of one to the other.
People are going to buy it anyway. It doesn't matter what the science shows because they're desperate. And they're desperate because they love their animals. They're also desperate because oftentimes I'm going to sidetrack for just a few seconds. I look at so many of the things that we give supplements for, and it's to fix problems that we've created. So much of our joint issues are, what do we do a lot with horses? We do circular exercise. People lunge their horses every day.
Ride them in arenas and circles, yeah.
You want to talk about ways to destroy your joints? There you go. If you avoid those things, you don't tend to destroy your joints.
The same thing with ulcers, right? Like,
oh, yes.
Right. That's another big one that, we're managing our horses in such a way where.
Thank you. You want to get rid of ulcers? Provide lots of long stem forage. There we go. Most of the time, that is one of the biggest effects. But instead, we want to have these treatments because we're doing it wrong. Even like a lot of our supplements, going back to let's go back to the basics of good, solid nutrition. If you're doing that, there usually isn't any need for additional supplements. If you're feeding good quality forage, and if you need to provide a balanced concentrate, having that in there, if your forage is deficient of certain vitamins or minerals, it's frustrating when people are like, oh, I'm feeding this vitamin mineral mix on top of it. I'm like, okay, why are you doing that? Have you looked to see if what you're feeding is actually deficient? If it's not, if you're providing it, extra is not going to do magic. So you're wasting your money. It's going to get excreted or potentially create a toxicity. So many times it's going back to the basics of good management, just good nutrition, and not needing the buzz of supplements or these fixes to create or to cure the problems that we've kind of created. But you're right. Like, people want drug-like effects, and good luck getting that, because you're not even getting supplement-like effects when you don't actually have anything make a difference.
That's true, yeah.
I wish I always had better answers for people, like, here's what you should be able to give your horse, because this has an effect. There's so few that actually make a difference in your horse. I go back to your placebo effect and the calming agents, and that happens a lot. Even when I was an exercise rider, I remember, the trainer saying, oh, I started giving this or doing this. Are you feeling an improvement? I'm like, yeah, okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. And what I'm thinking is, if my trainer is telling me that I should be seeing an effect or feeling an effect, well, then I better feel it, because otherwise I'm an incompetent rider who can't tell the difference. And then I give him that feedback or her that feedback, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, even my exercise rider is saying the horse is going better.
You don't know where it starts, where it stops. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's tough, but if you could just wave a magic wand and redesign how all equine supplements are marketed and regulated, what would you change first?
I would love that they had to have proof of efficacy. I think, man, if we could do that with good supplements, then whether or not this works. Another thing that is not the case, at least here in the States, is it is such an unregulated thing that you might say this supplement has X, Y, and Z in there at such amounts. There's no guarantee, because unlike feeds, if you're saying it's 12% crude protein or contains this much calcium minimum, it better have it, because when they test it, if it doesn't, they're in trouble.
Yeah. And I know that there's been some research in the probiotic world actually looking at, do these probiotics have the strains that they're having at the amount that they do? And at least the studies I've seen with the probiotics marketed for dogs and cats, I think of all the ones they tested, one was found to be what it said it had on the label.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah. But who's testing? Like, no one's going to go around unless you're doing, research or you're from a university. And first of all, you get funding to do it. No one has the resources or the time to go around and be testing other people's products.
We got so lucky. Where we got funding for this is there's the Michigan Alliance for Animal Agriculture. It is a funding pool that's set up to do research that really will benefit agriculture here in the state of Michigan. So that's where you got that independent testing, which is wonderful because these companies are not going to fund to find out whether these joint supplements work, because they will fund cell culture work, which shows why it might work.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it actually does work in the living animal.
And that's, I think, another thing that I don't know that owners realize is that when a company does say that there is studies or they do have a publication, that publication may not be in an actual horse, or the research that they're citing may not be in an actual horse either.
Well, I've seen myself quoted in advertisements, and the product that's being sold is not the same one which we had done research on. And in fact, the product, again, none of this was, I'm being very cryptic, don't need lawsuits.
Yeah, I'll try not.
The product that they were advertising, we've actually done research on it. Folks at the University of Arizona did research on it, and it didn't do a thing. But it was a natural product where we had looked at a synthetic form, and the synthetic form actually made a difference, whereas the natural one doesn't.
That's another good point. Yeah.
They were quoting me, and I could hold up the literature I did earlier today or yesterday or some other time when I was talking with someone, as here it was this morning. Life is busy, lots of people, whatever. It was a case where they're saying they're using me. And
Don't you love when people tell you what you said?
Yeah. And again, what I really want to say is, yeah, but that wasn't this product. And this product should actually not work at all based upon what's actually in it.
I don't know.
And you could fight all these fights. Life is too old. Again, what I do is I put the research out there, visit with you, people like you who help get the word out there that you need to be cautious. But I even see folks at universities, people that other people should believe that are either manipulating science, just because I understand this publish or perish thing and needing to get grant dollars in. And I don't think that they're intentionally trying to do harm. I think they're really desperately trying to find something. So you do a big study and, well, this little thing changed, so this is probably how it works.
Yeah, and I do find sometimes even just publishing, right? Like I feel like just when you submit something to a journal, it shouldn't be the case, but sometimes you're much more likely to get published if your paper is showing something. If you're submitting something, say, hey, I gave this and there was no effects, it's not really a fun, sexy topic, right? I was like, oh, I gave this and I saw all these things and it was, all these differences. So
I'm on the editorial board of 4 journals, and I am very happy if somebody submits a paper and they did a very nice study and no difference.
Because I think we learn more from that, right? Like if you are feeding something or you're expecting to see results and you don't, we kind of have to go back and say, well, why didn't I get the result I expected? And I do think that we learn more as scientists sometimes by not getting results than by getting results.
But you are right. A lot of people are less likely. A lot of journals, there is a publication bias that they don't publish it unless it's kind of, like you said, sexy. It's something. But if I have somebody who is trying to spin it a little bit more favorably and their results do not, they really don't support it, but you're really trying hard to sell this, you'll be more likely to be rejected. It's okay to just say, didn't really do much. We thought it would. It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay because it actually contributes to science.
Yeah.
I'll one little side story along that lines that I always use. 2 guys were in prison. One had been in there for 20 years. The other one, she's like, why is this coming up here?
I wasn't expecting the story to go this way, but I'm excited to see where it goes.
He just got put in prison and he wanted to get out of there. And so he decided he was going to start digging this tunnel underneath. And he started digging and he worked on it for like 6 months, 8 months. Finally, it's the last day. He should finally be able to get out. And he comes back in very dejected. And the old guy goes, let me guess what happened. He said, you went, you dug, you got out to where that old oak tree, and then you hit those roots and you couldn't go any farther. The guy goes, yes. Why didn't you tell me? Or he goes, well, yeah, how did you know? The old guy goes, well, I did that 20 years ago. The young guy goes, well, why didn't you tell me? The old guy goes, well, we don't publish negative results.
Well,
So
and
it's kind of like what happens in research. Often, if something doesn't work, you don't publish it, and that prevents people from breaking out of prison. Oh wait, that wasn't the moral of the story.
But I also think that as animal scientists, it's almost our service to the animals that we use in the research to put to put this research out there. If you've,
Yes.
taken the time to do these trials and use these live animals, then we really do owe them the service too of sharing with everyone else what we know, like you said, so that things don't get repeated for no reason if they don't have to.
Well, as I finish up my career here at MSU, I'm trying to publish. I have my list of ones that I need to get out yet, and like sometime within the next week.
I've heard that's very common in retirement and coming close to retirement. People just start putting out papers like crazy once they're quote unquote retired, just because now you have the time to do that.
That's it. Normal days are booked with everything else. But there is a couple, I'll admit, it's like, I'm not even going to bother, because what people don't realize, it takes a lot of work to put a manuscript together. And, I'm thinking of one already. We did it. It didn't make any difference. The guy who had contacted me to do it, good guy, he's passed away. I could, but it's so much effort, and people are probably not going to try and use this for the purpose he was intending anyway. But I agree with your point in that from the animal standpoint, from the people putting the effort in, you kind of owe it to them to publish it. So that's why the vast majority of my stuff, yes, we're trying to get it published because that's the right thing to do. But I'll admit, hand slap, I'm even thinking of this one.
Everyone is.
It's just like, it's so much work and it's just tiring.
Yeah, no, I think that we're all guilty of that to some degree. So we took a little bit of a turn there, but it all ties back to supplements.
Exactly.
It's time for our famous three.
So before we wrap up, is there just one key thing that you want to leave people with when it comes to deciding whether a supplement is worth it? I think we touched it all, but if there was just one sentence that they were to remember or take away from this podcast, what would it be?
Be skeptical. Be skeptical. And most of the times, if you're skeptical, you're correct. Again, there's a few things out there that have demonstrated efficacy, but the number of ones that don't far outweigh. And I, for amusement's sake, when the little ads come into my mailbox and, from these magazines, I love looking at all these different things that are useless junk. And it saddens me that people are spending money on a lot of this stuff. But there are some things now, again, medicine has been proven to work on things. Some of these, maybe the research will eventually show up, but there's a lot that either there is no good logical reason why it works other than them trying to tell you a story as to why the magic works. But if you're skeptical, most of the times you'll be correct. I go back to, and I can't remember the exact farm, it was regarding gelding stallions and whether it's a good idea. One of the major breeders, and I think it was at the farm where Northern Dancer was bred, he said, if I would have gelded every horse ever raised on this farm, I would have only made one mistake. And gelding Northern Dancer, if that was the horse, that would have been a mistake.
That's a good story. No, it's a good.
Most of them, you're not making a mistake. Most times, if you're not buying a supplement, you're probably not making a mistake.
That's really good thing to leave the listeners with too. And I think to your point about research too, I always tell people if there is a study that they find that they want to learn more about, just email the person. Like if you can find their email, we're so happy when people are interested in our research. We're happy to share, happy to talk about it. So if you're ever not sure, if you ever want to read something and can't get access to it, just email the person and no harm, right? Worst they can do is just not reply to you.
One of my best friends in the world, she actually is a great equine nutritionist in Australia. And we became friends when she emailed me back in, I think, 2013, a long time ago, asking about some research that we had done. And I tend to try and respond to anybody. Some people want to take up all your time. And I'm like, okay, folks, I gave you the answer. I can't spend hours on this topic. But we actually became really good friends over this whole thing. And I'll see her next month in Denver, Colorado at the American Association of Equine Practitioners.
Yeah, there you go. Another good reason to send emails.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know. But most people, you're busy, but you want to get the information out there. And people are amazed that people are interested in their research because a lot of it's really boring stuff.
Well, and the whole point of doing research is to help horse owners, help all these horses, right? So we do want to get it in the hands of the public, just sometimes harder than it should be. So
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Nielsen, thank you so much again. I really enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did last time. And I know that we could have talked about a lot more, and I'm sure we'll have you back to talk about the research that you're completing that you've sort of alluded to, but we'll leave that for next time, or maybe one of your grad students can come on too and share that.
Renee's even better than I am at talking. She's brilliant. So yeah, she would be a great person.
Oh, okay, perfect. I don't know if I believe that, but we're happy to have both of you on.
Yeah, there we go. We can do that. Yes, we'd have fun.
It's been such a pleasure, and it was such an insightful conversation. And we always really appreciate you cutting through some of the noise, whether it's electrolytes or supplements, and just helping people understand what really matters. So it was fantastic having you on.
Well, it was my pleasure to be with you, and always thank you. I enjoyed it.
Of course. And to everyone listening, if you enjoyed the podcast, feel free to subscribe and get some more content when it comes to equine and pet nutrition. And until next time, I'm your host, Dr. Alex Rankovich, and we'll see you soon.